entering Fort Davis National Historic Site in Fort Davis, Texas. Fort Davis is one of the best preserved frontier posts in the Southwest. Established in 1854, it was in operation with an exception of the Civil War years until 1891. The fort is open from 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon every day of the week. There is a small entrance fee required for adults, and it is a self-interpreting fort. At the Visitor Center, you can pick up educational materials and give yourself a tour around the fort. At certain times of the year, on certain days, there are costumed interpreters in the open buildings to give you a talk on the history of the fort. Fort Davis is a National Historic Landmark and has been under the stewardship of the National Park Service since 1960. The fort was established in 1854 by Lieutenant Colonel Washington Sewell with 6 companies of the 8th U.S. Infantry. The main purpose of the fort is protecting travelers along the San Antonio-El Paso Road. The fort is named in honor of then Secretary of War Jefferson Davis. It was abandoned by federal troops in April 1861 and reoccupied in 1867. Troops from the post helped to bring about the peaceful settlement and development of the region. Fort Davis was deactivated in 1891. Here we are at the entrance to the Visitor Center at Fort Davis National Historic Site. When you arrive to visit the fort, the first place that you will want to go is the Visitor Center. You enter through this restored barracks building that I'm standing next to, and the entrance to the Visitor Center is off here on your left. Here in the Visitor Center, next to the information desk, there's a large relief map of the fort. The buildings are numbered, and there's a number key here, so this is a really good place to get oriented before you go out to visit the fort. Over here, still in the Visitor Center, on the south-facing wall, there is a display case with a display of 19th century children's games, and it's called Playtime at the Post. There are some cards here to explain the games. And right behind me here is an example of adobe, which was widely used in construction of the fort here. Adobe, the definition being a sun-dried, unburned brick of clay and straw. Here in the Visitor Center, which again is a restored mid-1800s enlisted men's barracks, on the north side you will find the entrance to the museum. The museum extends right here behind me. It has many exhibits. You should tour the museum before you go out into the fort. In this section of the museum, you can see is devoted to Lieutenant Henry O. Flipper. Lieutenant Flipper was the first black graduate of West Point in 1877. He served here at Fort Davis from November 1880 until December 1881. He was court-martialed in a trial said to have been shrouded in racial prejudice. Flipper was accused of embezzling commissary funds, falsifying records and lying to the post commanders. He was not convicted of those charges, but he was given a dismissal from the Army for conduct unbecoming an officer. He tried to clear his name until his death in 1940 and attempted to have his rank restored. This actually did not happen until 1999. His relatives were able to obtain a pardon for him, a full pardon, issued by President Bill Clinton at that time. He went on to live a productive life, however, even though he was dismissed from the Army, and he had a long distinguished civilian career as a surveyor and a mining engineer. In the 1920s, he was appointed as Special Assistant to the Secretary of the Interior. This section of the museum here at Fort Davis National Historic Site is devoted to one of the most well-known Indian wars, and that was the Indian War against Victoria. And here is the bust of Victorio here. Victorio, who was a Warm Springs Apache chief, led his warriors and some reservation mescaleros in a major outbreak in the spring of 1879. Welcome to the commanding officer's quarters at Fort Davis.